Thank you, and welcome to my short lecture right after the lunch break. I hope you're all in a good mood. And as you heard, I'm Mike Schnoor. I'm working for the Digital Hub Cologne, and our mission is to enable companies to become digital. And we are a neutral partner. We're no consultancy because we've been funded by the City of Cologne, the Chamber of Economies, and the University of Cologne. And before that, we are part of a project from the state government. So we don't do consulting, we aid in the process to become a digital company. And in the last years, we really identified 7 so-called digital dilemmas that keep blocking companies in terms of their digitization. So I'm going to show you what it is all about, and let's find out what is a digital dilemma. So the digitization is omnipresent and overwhelms many entrepreneurs, especially here in Germany. They hear about new business models, they read about collaborations with startups and the innovative technologies, and they see the competitors talking all day long about big changes. They are aware of digitization, but they don't act progressively. Instead, they are rather fearful of change that's actually driven by the digital world. As digitization directly impacts their companies and their business models, the entrepreneurs and company owners don't really act as they should. In many cases, these fears turn out to be unfounded because as an entrepreneur, you should usually be able to find a way out of any kind of dilemma. So while they appear to be ready for digitization, and everyone is talking about digital transformation, most of these companies are still holding back on the essential strategic planning and clear implementation of what digitization is all about. So in other words, they find themselves in a predicament, a dilemma from which there seems to be no way out. Usually this kind of situation is really dangerous because it brings a company to really certain stop. They are confronted with digital dilemmas, and now let's take a look at it, what's in it to be. A digital dilemma actually describes a situation as apparently inescapable, and in fact, it does not offer a straight or direct solution. However, a digital dilemma actually enables entrepreneurs on making a decision concerning on how to boost their companies. And these digital dilemmas that keep companies tangled in the decision-making process, they have to be unlocked. So let's start with the first digital dilemma, the first slide about the dominating daily business. So imagine this. If a company has planned all the way along through the day, if all orders have been processed, if all customers are satisfied, if all annoying duties have been taken care of, and if the sun is still shining bright at the end of the day, then you might want to start something new, like, well, starting being digital, starting being innovative, or you might just want to grab a beer. So you see there's a dependency in all of this in the word if. If you can achieve your daily business, you will find time to plan something new. Well, or perhaps not. So this is the problem. The digitization is one of the true victims of this kind of if mentality. In fact, a great majority of entrepreneurs places digitization on the back burner of their to-do list. Like, oh, I've got a dominating business and sorry, I don't have time. They claim, I love to digitize my company, but I don't have it. As in time, resources, ideas, whatever it is, their daily business is dominating their minds. They have the GDPR ruling all processes in their company. I mean, we know it. Everywhere in marketing, in HR, in every aspect, there is GDPR. There are legal restrictions. There are, people that are getting sick. They don't come to work. You have to find a solution. Then you want to hire new people. You have all this HR stuff, and nobody matches your high hiring criteria. And of course, you've got to sell your products and services, and you must satisfy your customers. Well, you have a lot to do, but there's no chance of seeing the sun before sunset. So that's a kind of claustrophobic situation for an entrepreneurial mind. You're, well, welcome in the first digital dilemma. You have to decide between two really good aspects: keeping the daily business running or actually investing in the future of your business. And that's a tough decision. And here's what entrepreneurs really should do. You don't do A or B, you should do both. Because digitization requires you to develop a real strategy and implement it consistently in and alongside your entrepreneurial activities. So don't try to create small digital projects, but always think big and bigger and act out of a digital mindset. So this is one part. Now let's take a look at the next slide about the digitization jungle. Now, if you imagine an SME's owner confronted with the very first idea of digitization, well, this person has to face the most complex and comprehensive vocabulary ever in terms of digitization. There is API, 5G, blockchain, big data, cyber resilience, digital twins, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing, robotic automation, quantum computing, startups, PropTech, InsurTech, FinTech, Scrum, VUCA, of those. So you see the typical entrepreneur everywhere. He or she has to understand all of this out of a sudden, because everyone talks about it. All the papers are writing articles, the news are full of it, and within these trend topics, we are already in the middle of the discussion of what is digitization all about. These core technologies that I mentioned already affect nearly every area of our social and economic life. And, well, yes, they play a really central role in the digital transformation of the economy and society. After all, digital technologies already create essential components of our daily lives and are dominating daily business. Because today, we can access information anytime and everywhere. We've got smartphones all around here. But a wide variety of products and order services usually work only via the internet. We conduct our banking transactions and we communicate with each other on various social networks and apps. Oh, well, we never had so much information and platforms at our disposal which satisfy our communicative and social needs. And this is precisely why these digitization technology trends have a direct impact on all business areas in nearly every company. So, how to solve it? You have to identify the appropriate trends based on core technologies that fit your company best. You have to make clear investments in innovations that can generate additional new sources of revenue and income in the course of digitization. Don't find yourself in a digital dilemma where you're unable to decide between staying as you are or investing in the future. Actually, do both, do all, while you might not want to shoot from the blue. Instead, create a value according to your strategic plan. And I mentioned again the strategic plan. That is essential. Let's take a look at the third slides, because every company has ideas, but usually there is no real implementation. So if you want to experience digitization in your company, you also have to, swallow bitter pills. There are often many ideas for how to start with digital projects, but the actual implementation simply doesn't work. Basically, it's a question of idea management. And that's not a fundamentally new topic. It's a good form for companies to develop new ideas, to collect them in a structured manner and select them in the targeted process as part of company's strategic orientation. Okay, again, strategic. Oh, I'm sorry, but that's a big part of becoming digital. So a large number of ideas can be used to optimize existing procedures, and you can introduce significant innovations in the company. Although the executives in the company are an important driver for ideas, the real source of innovations and creativity actually comes from all employees. The digital dilemma is, if your company does not consider the ideas about digitization out of your team, there's no chance of really implementing it without the clear will to change. In traditional structures, processes for creating innovations are very, very lengthy. It requires a lot of coordination, a lot of procedures and approval loops, as well as actually every department wants to stir in that kind of hot boil. And all this makes it difficult to introduce ideas, to develop them from a sketch into a prototype, and ultimately turn them into serious value propositions. So get to grips with ideas and test them for digital business sustainability in your company. Don't get mixed up in this bad dilemma of deciding between keeping your company at its current level or changing parts of it based on ideas from your team. So if you want to start creating new value for your company, you should be specific. You should evaluate the ideas in time. Don't take half of a year to try out, give feedback, test them, plan the implementation, or say no, but act quickly and provide enough freedom for the people and the ideas so that they can mature into real solutions that drive your company ahead. So that's another way how you can initiate digitization in your company. Now let's take a look at the fourth slide, and I take a short sip of water. I'm sorry. So if the ideas come from your team, let's take a look at employees in the company. In fact, the true capacity of employees is naturally finite in most companies. So entrepreneurs have to create appropriate processes to make the best use of their human capital resources. But the endless resource optimization during the last years is taking its toll in every organization. So right now, the digitization actually is knocking at the door, and all these established structures appear not to fit congruently with the requirements of an agile and digitalized world. The process is super optimized, and your team is fully engaged in this process, and there's no chance of giving these people a new task, like innovating or enabling the company to become digital. So before walking the extra mile, the people in your company will try to avoid more work and more tasks by simply saying, oh, I've got lots of work to do. Well, that might remind you of the very first digital dilemma about dominating daily business, because they've got all things on their table and they have to do it because everything is resource optimized. In fact, as you can see, the digital dilemmas are somehow interdependent on each other. That's a very, very sad truth, but you can change it and make it a positive thing. So simply ask yourself, what constitutes good idea management in your company? How do you encourage and motivate employees to get involved in their company with their ideas? How does the creativity factor affect future business proposals? And how can the quality of ideas be increased? And actually, what is the task of an ideas manager? How do you define that? And which ideas and resulting business concepts will actually survive the entire idea management process and which will not? Remember, from giving an idea into testing, into prototyping, into creating a value, that's a real asset for a company. You can generate a new value. So, and if there's value, how employees will be rewarded for the ideas? Is it a patent thing? Is it a bonus thing? Is it money? So, what are the differences between idea management and innovation management? And how can you maintain a high level of innovation in a constantly reinventing market? How do your employees integrate themselves into the change process of digitization? Well, there's a lot of questions, but you should invest in answering these for getting ahead in becoming more digital. You should really invest in ideas and release the necessary resources for this. Talk to your team about resources and allow your employees to manage time more flexible and freely, which is actually contrary to these traditional expectations. And only by freeing up the time, the digitization can be planned and implemented in the company. It's crucial for your team to create a roadmap for digitization. And in other words, again, the strategic guidelines within a framework for your digital strategy, which is anchored deeply within your overall corporate strategy. So those who don't have a digital strategy or an innovation strategy, they should really start thinking about that. So the empowerment of the key people and their teams in your company, it will require adjustments to a classic organizational chart in order to create a rather flexible organizational structure and a digital corporate culture. So open yourself in the company for digitization by releasing the necessary resources. So that's enough of that. And let's take a look at the fifth slide. So let's talk about the responsibilities. Have you ever asked yourself who is responsible for digitalization in my company? Who should even start with it? And who will take a steering role in this entire process? Is it the CEO, the CDO, the Chief Digital Officer? Is it the project manager? Is it the digital consultants? Well, entrepreneurs must overcome the typical digital dilemma of unclear responsibilities quickly so that their digitization does not get stuck. In a digital age, not a single person can manage the change processes in the company. Anyone who really believes that a managing director or a chief digital officer or that process manager or a consultant can outperform in this task, well, then you are completely off the mark. No clarified responsibilities means that despite all the ideas and freedom, all the resources, the company can still not apply the strategic guideline, strategic again, to make their business more digital. And in order to become digital, they have to have an economic success. For many decision makers, the exact responsibility is unclear in addition to the accountability. So the definition of responsibilities is indispensable in order to identify boundaries and actually to secure the support of your employees. So it requires a lot of structure, it requires a lot of freedom, and digital means to think different than before. So by only working together, digitization can be implemented in a way that it promises success. In terms of the individual employees, depending on the entry level and decision-making scope, depending on the various positions, this has a real impact on the success of all measures in order to become digital. Here, the transfer of knowledge in all departments and teams is really what matters. And whatever role and responsibility they are in, share the knowledge. You should shape the entrepreneurial future. I'm sorry. That means you should engage in a constant development process for your company, and as entrepreneur should have the confidence to help and shape the digitization and involve all managers and the entire team. At the same time, it means taking responsibility for it, of course, at the top level, thus eliminating the digital dilemma of unclear responsibilities from the outset. So investing in all digital things means to empower your own team and define structures and decision-making paths. Well, at the same time, it is a good idea to seek advice, of course. If you don't have the expertise, get it from others. So you have to challenge the digitization consciously and find a way out of this kind of dilemma. So let's take a look at the next slide, which should be, I'm going to check the lack of ambidextry. So what is that? Well, ambidextrous people can be explained as being able to write and work with both hands. Of course, not just with the left or the right hand, but both together in an equal manner. I can't, but we should in theory. So in terms of business, entrepreneurs should be able to think beyond and above the business model. What today might work could fail in the near future. Of course, if my product perfectly sells today, it will reach a certain point where the buyers will look for competitors' offers. Then I won't sell it anymore. So do I have to build a new business model while still benefiting from the current one? Well, there's a catch, yeah. Yes, you should have to think about it and find a solution. Ambidexterity is the ability to respond both efficiently and flexibly to change. And that means if you, as a manager, put a company into a position, then you can pursue a two-track or a multi-track strategy. So instead of focusing exclusively on a single area, Well, there will be lots of new paths taken, and existing business models can be changed and replaced or expanded, and there will be perhaps entering new ones. So ambidexterity is about adopting new perspectives and thinking outside the box. So, well, while the really core business and the competencies of a company can serve well as a cushion to identify precisely the potential profitable digital model, then it might not even fit into the original corporate strategy. It doesn't matter. Simply try, simply test, simply look what's next to you. So don't stick to the motto, stay true to your analog past, because a backward-looking mindset can be a fatal mistake when it comes to digitization. So the digital transformation requires companies to deal with ambidexterity in an entrepreneurial context. And if you still don't really know what to do while facing 6 of 7 dilemmas, let's take a look at the next slide about no input from outside. So if you don't know what to do, well, I hope you have some ideas now, and because you want to do something, that's why you watch this entire webinar. So if you want to conquer the markets of the future, you have to adapt digitally. But many companies are really stuck in that situation. If they lack the knowledge and inspiration to take the first steps towards digitization, nothing will change in a long-term perspective. Well, this dilemma of companies is defined by a lack of impulse giving and inspiring exchange, mostly with external partners. Unfortunately, most entrepreneurs don't get the important input from outside until that moment when the standstills fell throughout the entire company. So if you don't show sharing, show communication and emotion in building and creating knowledge and creating values for your company, the internal resources are unlikely to make a difference. How an input from outside should be defined, well, that depends on the company itself. So for a few examples, in addition to the technical competence and expertise provided by potential new employees, even your existing teams can build up their digital knowledge through new forms of leadership and organizational structure. So in your perhaps innovation labs, your team can be empowered to think around the corner and develop actionable new approaches to solutions right out of their own ideas with their suddenly free resources. So as you see, the dilemmas, if you solve them, they will work together as solutions. So you can use hackathons and inspire each other, or ideathons, or you buy the knowledge if you don't have it. So you can understand more about digitization and apply that knowledge with the help of partners to your company. In the end, all people in your company, above and beyond, all managers should not cut corners in this process. And even if the process of building that knowledge will require more cost than originally planned. Well, I'm getting a pop-up there. So I'm nearly finished. So what makes a company successful? The will to constantly learn something new. The will to constantly learn something new is, well, really important, and it plays directly into the cost of the digitization projects. You need to develop this digital mindset, and you should open your company out for the outside world and let new thoughts invade your company. You should build partnerships from which all partners can benefit. Act in a goal-oriented manner because you must constantly implement digitization. Readjust all of this in return and adjust it again according to your strategic plan. You and your team are responsible for the success because there's no I can't. You should do. So that brings me to the end of a small lecture about the dilemmas. If you want to find more details, like at the next slide, I think, there is a white paper at exactly that slide. You can download it on our website. It is in German, but there's DeepL and you can translate everything of it. So that shouldn't be a sales pitch, but we as Digital Hub Cologne can give you access to many different ideas about how to start digitization, as well as the expertise in form of people, service providers, and startups through our vast network. this kind of concentrated expertise can aid you in the process and boost your team and your business models. So in the end, my name is Mike Schnoor. If you want to get in touch with me, simply Google me, and that's it.